Hey everyone, it's Jordan Bianchi here of Aurora Airwaves. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching this video. I'm at a stage of growing this podcast and being able to put out more video content related to the topics of creativity, writing, healing, and well-being. With the underlying question, how can we learn to take care of ourselves while we're creating our art? As someone who's been in the creative field for over a decade, I've found that the underlying difficulty with becoming a creative isn't necessarily just the creation of art, but it's the taking care of ourselves in the process of making our art. That is very difficult. When I was in school, this wasn't something that was necessarily taught. We learned the craft, we learned how to do the thing that we're doing. But I found that through my 20s that most of my friends, like I said, were dealing with these frustrations. And the number one thing that I discovered was that the more that I talked about what I was dealing with, what I was feeling, what my frustrations were, what I was angry about, what I was scared about, the more that I did that, the more that I was able to see who I was as a person. And over the years of having friends and building up friendships where people that I knew in my circle were interested in doing the same thing, we were all able to grow and learn. And I just learned that from sharing reflections about life and the blocks that we all experience, it can start to move the energy that is within us that is stuck and is frozen. Moving the energy is basically what healing is. It's taking stagnant energy and understanding where you'd like it to go and how to get it out of the body. And the first step is awareness. You can't get awareness of something if you don't choose to look within. Look at the light that you know is within and start to see the shadows that are blocking it, the darkness that is not letting that light out. This is something that has been my journey for the past 4 years, really 5. But it's a very important part of my life because going down the route of healing has allowed me to create more. It's allowed me to connect more with people. It's allowed me to be a part of the world. So I wanted to share all with you a reflection that I've recently had, a set of reflections. For those of you who don't know my journey, a big part of my creative journey is writing a book. I have many books, many podcasts, many short stories, films, you name it, in the works and things that I've been dreaming up. But one in particular is a fantasy novel that I dreamt about early on in college. And throughout my 20s, I pushed to develop this into what I thought would be an amazing story. I went from this being my first experience screenwriting when I was 18 and loving the path of creativity, loving seeing myself go to the library and work on all these pages and talk about scenes in class with my classmates. And I still remember those moments. They were so important to me. Over the years, I started to understand that I couldn't necessarily make that fantasy story into a film, like I had set out as a feature screenplay, but I could bring it to life as a book. And what I didn't know was how difficult it is to write a book. I do have a degree in creative writing as well as film, and I think when I graduated, I felt that, yeah, I got this figured out. I'll just block it out, I'll just slowly chop it down and bang this book out. But a year turned into 2 years, 2 turned into 3 and 4, and over time this really weighed on me. This story, which was something so wonderful and magical and beautiful to me, was starting to feel impossible. And I left New York because I was overwhelmed. I had been in graduate school and working out there, and I wanted to focus on the book and just move that energy out. But I became more and more and more frozen. That's when the depression really started to sit in. And what I didn't realize was how much shame that I was accumulating for not having finished this book. How much of my self-worth I was pouring into this. And what's interesting is that as the healing journey began, I started to see bits and pieces of inspiration in the healing journey. The lessons that I was learning were far more interesting and valuable than pretty much anything I'd ever heard. And over the pandemic and over the course of a couple of years of working on myself, I've fallen in love with the act of healing and the journey of learning how to take care of yourself. And so this led me to realizing that this book that I'm writing is the reason that I could never really get it done was because there was a direct relationship, direct mirror to my inner state, to my healing journey, to my ability to find peace and love and balance, my spiritual views, my views on life, and everything about the way that I, at the end of the night that I want to that I think about and the way that I feel about things. That was what I was pouring into this book, which was an enormous amount of pressure for a writer who was not a professional writer by any means. Now, fast forward 12, 13 years later, from the first ideas of this story, I've been easing into the idea of working on the book again. A couple of years ago, I decided to put the book away, and this was before my healing journey, and I said that this book is going to be the death of me. This big, glorious, beautiful thing was impossible, and I had lied to myself, and I couldn't do it. As the healing journey began, this is infused with the statements that I was just saying about, it got things going and it got me moving, and I saw other ways of telling this story. I began to ease back into it, but there was always hesitation. I always kind of wished that there was a third party, or there was some external force that had set a deadline for me so that I could show up and have, for a reason for this to be told rather than setting my own deadlines, which I've learned really just doesn't work. What I am really excited to share, and I want to share these reflections because I feel like a lot of you might be able to identify with the journey that I just recently experienced, and it really changed the course of how I'm viewing my life and my creative life. NaNoWriMo is what I've been participating in. It's November. NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. It's a month where you set on a challenge to write 50,000 words. NaNoWriMo's been around for a long time. It's something I've always been interested in back from the days of when I was on Tumblr and I was just starting to crawl the internet and stuff. It was this wonderful thing that I tried to do a few times, but never really got to do it because, again, I didn't really have the skills to do it. I didn't really have the understanding of what it takes to be a writer. So this was the month that I'd been looking at all year to maybe participate in this. My friend, my writing partner, Amanda Bintz, she brought this up earlier in the year, and I really kept it at arm's reach for a while, and I didn't want to commit to it. I didn't really want to involve myself with the idea too much. And over the months, as the months passed throughout the year, I started to realize that I was working on so many projects, and I really didn't have to do as many as I was. So throughout this year, I've been letting projects go, but this book was just something that I really couldn't. And about a month and a half ago, I started outlining again. And I said to myself, if I'm going to do this, this has to be done in a completely different way. This cannot be done like I had in the past of my systems of forcing myself to sit at the desk and I can only work for 8 hours. I can only, I can't have any fun. I can't do anything else. No distractions, none of this. That didn't work. And I didn't really understand why that didn't work. So what I'm learning, and what I did was I just sat on this couch and I said, okay, we got to do this completely differently. I only will get to write and outline and play with these ideas if it is play, not if it's an obligation. Any timeline I have is fabricated. It's an expectation that I've put on myself. And I need to change the way that I construct my thoughts and my perceptions of myself. So for the past month and a half, I've been playing, and it's basically just been toying with an idea for, an hour or so, trying this thing out, trying that thing out, see what works here, see what works there. And things that have taken me years and years and years of ideas to break through. I was moving so quickly, and it just really felt good. It really taught me that the power of play is unrivaled in its ability to tap into your purest energy, what I like to call your Aurora energy. It's the vessel, it's the conduit for letting your light out into the world. And that means that, I got to see it. But what really hit was that a few days before November 1st, I said, I have my outline. It's done. Can it be improved? Yeah. But it's always going to be improved. I have an outline. I know Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I know what the story is. I know what the characters are. I know what's going on. I have a much better understanding of the magic system. And that's it. And what was interesting was that my reaction, I thought, was going to be tears and jumping up and down and punching my fist through the air and calling all my friends and family. And I just felt, yeah, this is done. Which was interesting, because every time that I have, in my head, imagined an accomplishment that I wanted to achieve, it's always been these grand, glorious, huge things. And this was a big achievement, and it just felt like I said, yeah, whatever. But what was interesting, though, was that I still felt the energy of being able to play for that month and a half. And I loved that. So this made me think about an idea that my guru shared with me recently, which is that the purest form of self-love is the gift of letting yourself be present in the moment. I was doing The Artist Way, a book by Julia Cameron, about artistic recovery. My cousin and I were doing this. It's a 12-week course on artistic recovery, and each week you go on an artist date, which means you take yourself out into the world and you do something nice for yourself that you don't normally do, and you allow your senses to participate in what's around you by doing something different. And there was something in the book about an example that she had gotten herself flowers, and I thought to myself, I've never bought myself flowers before. I wonder what that feels like. And I walked down to the local market, looked at the flowers that they had, all these colors, beautiful summer mix, and I bought them, and I brought them home, and I set them up on my table right there. And it felt really, really good. That act felt so much better than most of anything that I do. And it was wonderful, she explained, because it was a form of self-love, because it was in the moment. And that's what love is. Love is acceptance. Love is not having walls and armor that form around the heart and don't let the heart interact with the rest of the body's energy. This is pure expression, and it's expression now. So when I looked at the outline, I was like, it's the same thing as just like when you were a kid and you'd go and hang out at a friend's house. Someone asked you, did you go to the friend's house? You'd be like, yeah, I did it. You wouldn't be laughing, and crying from having so much fun like you were when you were with your friend. You'd be recounting and be like, yeah, that's something I did. That's the same thing. And what I realized, I was just hit with epiphany after epiphany, and I realized that every major life goal that I've wanted, for the most part, presenting films at film festivals, being the leader of numerous high-end projects, making tons of money, being a leader of thought and meditation and a guide and all these things, but really in the creative realms, doing all this high-end stuff was just my ego, because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe just participating in something that felt good to me. In the chakra system, which is something that I very much have studied, the first chakra, which is at the base of the spine, is all about survival. And it comes down to if you feel safe or not. And if you don't, you feel fear. So if our grounding is rooted in fear, this is the thing that we're most connected to at our core, if we don't feel safe to explore our senses, if we don't feel safe to just be in the environment and not do anything, we're never going to thrive. That energy is never going to connect with the heart. Above the root chakra is the sacral chakra. And this chakra is all about pleasure, and it's blocked by guilt. We have the right to explore what pleases us, what delights are out there that we want to interact with. This is present when we're a child and we start to see the world around us. We start to see colors and shapes and smiles and frowns, and we start to develop things in our world that feel good to us. But as we age, we start to experience guilt. You shouldn't be feeling that way. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And I have had a huge amount of guilt for the stories that I want to write and the stories that I've always been passionate about. Above that is the second chakra, is the third chakra, and the solar plexus. And this is about willpower. This is where the ego lives. And this is all blocked by shame. Feeling shame for what actions you participated in or what actions you did not participate in. Shame is the lowest vibrational energy, and it can hold you back indefinitely until you let it go. And a lot of that is just forgiving yourself for having to hold on to the shame. A lot of the times we try to say we shouldn't feel shame or guilt or fear, but in reality, the first step is forgiving the younger versions of ourselves for not knowing that we could let it go or how to let it go. In future videos, we'll talk more about this. But above that is the heart. And the heart, when the lower chakras are not opened up, when you don't feel safe, when you don't feel the ability to explore pleasure, when you don't act in ways that are healthy for a balanced ego, you can't open your heart in a healthy way. So what I've been experiencing for the past decade is being in survival mode with creativity. Thinking, not feeling, but thinking that I have to make tons of projects or I'm a failure and nothing's going to work out for me and I'm never going to be safe and I'm never going to be loved. It comes with so much guilt. I should be doing this, not that. I shouldn't be interested in this. I should be interested in that. Like tons of things like that. When it comes to willpower, it comes to like, why didn't you act on this? Why did you act on that? Why didn't you participate in this thing? Why didn't you help yourself earlier? Why didn't you plan ahead? So much of my healing journey has been letting my shame go and understanding that these are just expectations that I've absorbed from the belief systems around me, from where I grew up and where I went to school. And these were all things that I chose to believe, but I had to let go. So this was a beautiful opportunity for me to reparent myself and really work with my inner child. And every day when I was writing, I would be asking my inner child, are you happy at play here? Is this play? And if I just wrote for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, that was fine. But then I was able to get better and better at talking to little Jordan. And, I can go into more detail in a future episode, but this is something that was very important. So now when I look at what I want to do with my life, I just feel like the path that I had fabricated is just gone. And now there is no path. And I feel like that's the most exciting and, breathtakingly beautiful place to be. Because I know that even throughout all these years of not being creative, and I would say I was being creative, but not in the ways that I wanted to be. I never lost my mojo. I never lost my Aurora energy. I never lost those parts of me that have never changed and might have gotten buried. But now I can see that they're still there, and I can still tap into them and express them. And now that it's November, I'm writing, it's like close to like 1,600 words a day, which is a challenge. And some days I'm writing more and some days I'm writing less, because it's a lot. But I'm finding that for me and my way of being, I'm playing every day again. I'm participating. I'm in this fantasy world. And, books and fantasy books and adventure. These were incredibly important anchors of my childhood, and they were the reason why I went to college. I mean, for Harry Potter, like, I was so interested in the Harry Potter films and the books. I mean, they were everything, and I loved so many other series. And I feel like so much of my journey has been understanding the cinematic element, and perhaps I will return. I'm not going to say what I need to do or whatnot, but it's been to arrive at this moment so that I can honor my inner child and let him play and let him finish a huge project that just feels like Aurora energy. So I'm so happy to be able to share this with you all, and when you hear this, I would like to know what your thoughts are on my journey, but also really on your journey as well. Like I said at the beginning of this, like, we heal through hearing other people's stories. And that's why stories are so important to hear, because they can help us see something in ourselves that we couldn't see. And then we can gain that awareness, and then we can act on it and lead ourselves to a place where we might want to be. So if you have stories of your own about when you were blocked, epiphanies that you had about, fabrications of your ego of what you had to do, and then you found through some act that you could take a different path, your own path, and craft a life for yourself that is its own thing, I really want to hear that. So please if you're on YouTube, leave me a comment. I would love to hear. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, join us on the Aurora Airwaves or Instagram, or my personal Instagram, Jordan Bianchi Dreams. Shoot me a message. Tell me your story. I really want to hear it. And again, thank you so much for hearing this journey, hearing this chapter in my journey. And I can't wait to bring more episodes your way. I have a whole fleet of interviews that I've been working on. Professors, healers, editors, writers, singers. I'm so excited for this next chapter of the Aurora Airwaves journey, and I'm so excited for this YouTube page to start growing into something more of my personal journey as well. So I really can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Take care, and take care of yourself. See you later.